6 years after it was first launched, Renault has finally updated the Triber. There are a host of changes on the outside and inside. The USP remains the same. This is a sub 4 meter car that can carry up to 7 people. However, that turbocharged engine, it is still not on the menu. So is the Triber worth considering in 2025? Well, let's find out. Launched in 2019, the Triber enjoyed strong initial demand, racking up 100,000 sales in just 30 months. Since then, however, demand has slowed considerably. Renault hopes to reignite interest with the Triber's first major refresh. Let's start by seeing what's new on the outside. Starting at the front, the Triber now gets this new Renault badge housed in this gloss black grille. The bonnet itself is all new. It has some nice cuts and creases right here, nice scallops type of design there. The headlamps are now LEDs, so are the fog lamps. Speaking of which, the bumper too is all new. This silver trim right here is a bit chunkier, trying to give it more of an SUV type vibe. Overall, it does quite a good job of freshening up the Triber. In profile, not much has changed. The wheelbase is a substantial 2636 mm, while the ground clearance is 182 mm. It rides on 15-inch wheels. Those are actually steel wheels with plastic wheel caps, which do a really good job of looking like alloy wheels. Real alloy wheels, by the way, are an optional extra. Another highlight are those roof rails, which are functional and can carry up to 50 kgs. And at the back, there are no real sheet metal changes, but Renault has done a good job of freshening things up. There's this new gloss black trim piece right here that connects two LED tail lamps. The bumper is new. There's a new Triber script right here. And while we're back here, let's take a look at the boot space. Now with all seats up, the boot space is just 84 liters, which means you'll be relying on those roof rails a lot. However, these seats can be folded or removed entirely for a boot space of a massive 625 liters. With that, let's head inside and see what's changed. Now inside there are quite a few updates. The dashboard itself has been redesigned, the screen has moved up and the AC vents have moved down. Speaking of the screen, this is an 8-inch unit, the same size as before, but the UI is new. It's not the sharpest or the most responsive screen out there, but it does have wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. The digital instrument cluster is the same as before, but that's not a bad thing because it's quite easy to read. Everything is laid out quite logically. While the previous model used a mix of black and beige materials, this update uses more of what Renault calls greige for an airier ambience. Gone is the silver dash trim, replaced by a matte wood piece with diamond patterns. New features for 2025 include wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, cruise control, auto headlamps and rain sensing wipers. There are also quite a few nice practical touches in here, including the storage spaces. For example, there's a nice shelf right here for your mobile phone. There's an actual wireless charger down here. There are two cup holders down here and a nice storage bin which is actually cooled. There are also two glove boxes, one up here and another one down here. Overall, quite a practical cabin. So overall, it's quite a nice cabin. There are no soft touch plastics as such, but all the plastics are quite hard wearing and do seem of pretty decent quality. But there are a few ergonomic quirks. For example, the cruise control switch is down here and the rest of the buttons controlling it up here. Another thing I've never seen in a car before is there is a leather stitched steering wheel, but only in this section right here. Also, you don't get a dead pedal, which means your foot has to rest behind the clutch. Not ideal, but you do get an armrest, which is nice. In terms of safety, the Triber now comes with 6 airbags and ISOFIX mounts as standard. The earlier Triber scored 4 stars in the global NCAP test, though this facelifted model is yet to be tested. The middle row of seats are actually a little more comfortable than the fronts. You get adjustable headrests unlike the fixed headrests on the front. The seat also slides back and reclines There's plenty of legroom, plenty of headroom, and you sit a little bit higher so you get a nice view out. The middle row gets dedicated AC vents neatly integrated into the B pillars along with a fan speed knob. And that brings us to the Triber's USP, the third row. And once you're back here, it's actually not that bad. You do get AC vents as well. I'm about 5'8" and this is how much leg room I have. I'd actually be okay here on shorter journeys. But on a longer journey, I'd prefer to be in the driver's seat. The facelifted Triber retains that same 1-litre 3-cylinder naturally aspirated engine. It makes about 72 horsepower and 96 Newton meters of torque. And in this car, it's mated to a 5-speed manual, but an AMT is optional on the higher trim. Performance is just about adequate in this city. It has no problem keeping up with traffic. But if you want to make an overtake, you will need to make a downshift, which means out on the highway, it kind of struggles, especially with a full load. This engine will really struggle. Refinement could also be better. That 3-cylinder thrum does get quite loud if you push it too hard, and there is a bit of gearbox whine coming through. A turbocharged engine would have really improved the drivability of the Triber, especially out on the highway. But as it stands right now, this is more of a city car, which is why I think the AMT is a better match to this engine. The manual gearbox also, the shifts are a little heavier than I would have liked. So is the clutch. It's a little bit heavier than I would have liked. It's not something that you wouldn't get used to, but it's just not ideal. A bit of a miss from Renault is that the AMT is offered only on the top spec Emotion trim. On all other versions, you are limited to just the manual. In typical French fashion, the Triber does ride really well. There is an underlying firmness to it, but it absorbs bumps really well. And the plus side of that firmness is that it feels really sure-footed for its weight out on the highway. What lets the driving experience down, in my opinion, is the steering, which is really light. That's useful in the city, but it does feel really disconnected when you're out on the highway. Thanks to recent GST reforms, the Triber now starts at Rs 5.76 lakh for the entry-level authentic trim, going up to Rs 8.6 lakh for the top spec Emotion with the AMT and dual tone paint. The updates to the Triber, while mostly cosmetic, have done a really good job of freshening up what is already a really well packaged car. If you're in the market for a car that can seat 4 people comfortably and take a lot of luggage or occasionally seat 7, then the Triber is definitely worth considering.